Hello, guys. Welcome to This is the Rex Arthur Show, the LGBTQ channel that discusses LGBTQ issues with a humanistic approach and an LGBTQ perspective. Now, today we have very good news from Kenya, and that news is they have lifted the ban on Rafiki, the African lesbian movie that won a lot of praise at the Cannes International Film Festival, and has also been slated, has applied to for the Oscars in the Best Foreign Language Film. I hope and I wish them all the best in the foreign language film category. Oscars, it should be an Oscar. It should be an Oscar winning film. Reason being, from the few clips I've seen of Rafiki, the story is so real. I mean, if you know what I like about it, it is showing lesbianism in Kenya. And when you are in Kenya, you will understand there's a way you will see lesbianism in the Kenyan way. And when you go to Tanzania, Tanzania has its lesbianism. When you go to Senegal, Senegal has its lesbianism. When you go to Britain, Britain has its lesbianism. When you go to Romania, Romania has its lesbianism. So this is a movie that has shown the world how lesbianism looks like, the challenges it faces in the environment it's in. There are over 195 countries. So that means there are 195 variants of lesbianism. And then there are about 6,000 languages in the world, and 4,000 of them are still active. That means that there are 6,000 variants of lesbianism. There are 6,000 variants of homosexuality. There are 195 variants of homosexuality. When you go to America, how homosexuality is universal. But in that universality, there is diversity. And so the homosexual culture in America is not necessarily the same as the homosexual culture in the Arab world. So, like in the Arab world, it's more closeted, and then you may find the people like a certain style of doing things. Others they use different methods. Others use different code languages, how to express or talk to one another. Others have different tastes. So all of these differences come about because the world is diverse. And so what you have to understand is respect diversity, and where diversity is struggling, give it help. So we're very happy for Rafiki, and yes, because why I like it, it's an African, it's African, and what I want to say about that, why should we be very happy that it's African? You know, people may think that you're being racist when you declare that it is African. It is not racist to say that it is African. It is geographical. You are just making a geographical statement that it is, when you say it is African, it's not racist. Then it's also not racist to say black African. I had this argument with a friend of mine, not necessarily an argument. I think he thought it sounds racist to say black African. And I said, no. It's why I say that is to tell people they are also white Africans. and there are also Asian Africans. Now, it may sound like, okay, some people may think that is still classification, therefore racism, and so the best to say is just call it African. So that African means whether you're black or white or Asian, it is it is an African thing. And for me, I say it's okay, but when you say black African, you're more specific, and but that doesn't make you racist. It doesn't make you racist, but uh, you can just stick to saying it is African. And so I would call it. There are two ways I would call it. I would call it an African movie, but I would also call it a black African movie. Why? Because our racial differences is not racism. Please, people need to understand that racial differences are not is not racism. Racism is where you raise the racial differences. You raise one racial difference over another and declare that that racial difference is greater than that one and therefore has a right to oppress the less racial difference. That is where racism, that is racism. But classifying races is not racism. Calling someone a black African is not racist. Calling someone a white African is not racist. Calling somebody a black American, like in the past they used to call the African Americans black Americans. Now they call them African Americans. And then now there's a view that they should just be called Americans, so that they can the history. You see, the fact is, African Americans, when you hear that word, it's trying to tell you that they came from Africa. Their origin, their home of origin was Africa. That's all. It's not racist. When you say black American, it's not racist, because you are just saying this is an American who has a lot of melanin or has a significant amount of melanin in the skin. That's all. But where it is wrong is when you say that because you're black, you don't deserve a job. Because you're black, you see, that's now you're using the class to oppress. You're using the classification to oppress. So anyway, that's my take on racism. But and one thing, why do I like stressing black African? Like now I've stressed Rafiki is a black African movie, lesbian movie. It is to show people that homosexuality is African. It is universal. That's what, and the reason why we have to stress this is to teach the homophobes in our midst that think that these are things from the West. It's not from the West. It's not from the West. If it was from the West, Rafiki would have been acted by white people. Just think about it. If if homosexuality was from the West, the wound, the gay movie from South Africa, would have been acted by white people. It's a fact. Moonlight would have been acted by white people. It's also a black movie, black gay movie. So it's good to build, because, and then the other thing about racial difference is you have to understand where certain races are coming from. The racial difference means you have a different history. Like for the black people, their history is not the same as the white people, especially blacks in the diaspora. their history is not the same. So, what does that mean? They have a thought pattern, they have a psychology, they have a psyche that is controlling their their way of life. You see, like black Americans do not behave like Africans in some aspects. In some aspects, they do. Like music and dancing is the same. It's the same beats, the same rhythm. But when you look at the songs, they have different, they're in different languages. Some are in English, some are in Zulu, some are in Igbo, some are in Nkosa, all of those languages. They are different, but when you look at the beats, they are the same. Now, the um, but the Black American experience is not the same as the African experience because they were chained, they were slaves, and they went through slavery, which some black Africans didn't go through. So, what does that mean? The experience black Americans have is not the same as the experience some black Africans have. And that means that they will have different experience in their life. I mean, they have a different experience. So, what I'm trying to say is that in every race, even whites also have differences. People think whites are just the same. No, you'll go deeper and deeper and you'll find there are different whites. Like the Russian whites are called dirty whites in the white community because they were the slaves. They were enslaved by the Western European white. And that's why they were called Slavs. The word slave comes from the word Slav, which are all the Eastern European, Yugoslavia, all those sides of going to Russia, the Slavic tribes. These were enslaved and they were taken to Western Europe to work as slaves. And so they were seen as inferior whites or dirty whites. That's what happened. Go to India. India, they classify the races. They're also classified. So basically, when I talk of black movies, it is not, it's to raise the to encourage. You know, we need to be very optimistic and very encouraging to, especially to groups of people that have been oppressed. That is including number one, the LGBTQ community, number two, the black people, number three, women, because these are groups of people that have been oppressed, and not only even women, even men can be oppressed. Yes, they can be oppressed. So anybody who is oppressed needs a word of encouragement. That's the fact that we have to understand, that everybody, every race, every sexual identity, every gender identity, every political identity. You see, we have to be all equal under the law. What that means is that everybody is treated the same. I know it sounds very idealistic, but it is the truth. This is why the judge in the Rafiki case succeeded. He did well because he gave equal treatment to the directors of the movie by lifting the ban. Why did they lift? What is the constitutional? Um, what's the constitutional logic between lifting the ban? The constitutional logic is that everyone has the freedom of expression. And there is no law, any law that violates the Constitution, the provisions of the Constitution, is declared null and void. That has been, it is always stated in all constitutions in the world. Almost all constitutions in the world have a clause that that declare null and void, nullify any law that violates the principles of the Constitution. So, one of the key principles of the Constitution is freedom of expression. So, I don't know if the Rafiki directors fought this case on that basis. They can fight it and win because they can fight it on the basis that freedom of expression has been denied. You know why? The Bible, let's take the Bible. The Bible is a copywritten document. And is the document, when it is written down, it's copywritten, meaning the rights, if you want to copy the document, you have to state that it was written by somebody else. Do you know the Bible of today? You would change the names of the prophets, like Isaiah, and then somebody calls and then rubs Isaiah and recites Robert, the book of Robert. And the book of Robert, and then in another country, the book of Robert is called the book of Cecilia. And when you read the book, it's the same word by word, the same, but the writers are different. That is called copyright infringement, because you are infringing the work of Isaiah by changing and saying that it's not Isaiah who wrote it, it is Robert. And the danger of that, people may live forever believing that Robert wrote Isaiah's letter when it's actually Isaiah who wrote it. That's why the Bible is a very flawed copyright work, because there is no signature of the writers. They have not signed. We've just believed that Moses wrote. We don't even know whether it was him, because people have always asked the question, why? How did Moses write about his death in Deuteronomy, unless it's somebody else who wrote Deuteronomy? And there is nowhere at the end of Deuteronomy that Moses has signed written by Moses. Nowhere. Nowhere. Jeremiah had a writer called Baruch. He was writing for him. So what am I trying to say? There is copyright law. And because those were ancient times, they are forgiven. They didn't have that knowledge of copyright law. But today, we have copyright law. Now, why did I bring about the issue of copyright? I brought the issue of copyright to tell you that any work written or produced and made movie form or sung is copyright material, and it is based on the freedom of expression, the constitutional freedom. It's not a law. There is no law higher than the Constitution. And the Constitution has declared you are free to express yourself. You see? So, what does that mean? And why did I bring the Bible in? I brought the Bible in because the Bible has horrific stories. When you hear the argument of the Kenya Film Board, they are saying that these people are promoting lesbianism. But when you read the Bible even promotes violence, genocide. I remember I was hearing a pastor preach about how Saul did not obey God's command to commit genocide and kill everything. When a child reads that, what do you think happens in his brain? When you read to a child that story, and there are more stories than that, gruesome, rape, murder. You see? So all of these things. So what I'm trying to say is, if the Kenya Film Board is true to its word that it doesn't want promotion of so-called ills in society, they should also ban the Bible. They should also ban the Quran, on the basis that they are promoting ills. Even Paul talks about homosexuality. So are you going to ban the Bible because it talks of homosexuality? You see, that's that's the logic these guys are using. That is not. It doesn't make any sense. So, what would you do? Let lesbians, gays, transgenders make their movies. I mean, there are age restrictions put on movies. They have already done their part, putting an age restriction, and whoever watches, they know these are adults who are going to watch. It's simple. If a child watches it, it's not the fault of the director. The director has already done their job of putting the restrictions, age limit. It is the fault of whoever left the video or movie hanging around and a child less than 18 got it. So you don't blame the director for material at all, especially when it's restricted. Please, you are fighting a losing battle. That you're telling somebody you're promoting. No, they're not. You're talking to adults. These are adults. They know sex. They know lesbianism. They know violence. They know nudity. They understand. These are things you don't show children, but you can show adults. They have an understanding. You see, children who are 5 years old, 4 years old, they don't understand nudity. They don't understand sex. Of course, that one we'll discuss in another time because these days children are beginning to understand these things very early. And we know it because, I mean, animals have sex. And children, when they see the cock and hen mating, they'll ask you what is happening. So you see, are we going to ban chicken and cocks from mating because they are promoting sex? That's what is happening. That's the logic that is in that board. And they should go back to read the Constitution. The Constitution gives freedom of expression. And art is an expression, is a profession of expression. And there is nothing as good. Rafiki is not fiction. It's even trying to help the society to understand who a lesbian is. Yes, it's a tough movie because it's going to cause a lot of discussion. People are going to ask themselves, but it's good. Let people discuss about lesbianism and homosexuality. This is how Africa will change. And that's why I'm very happy. This is not a white movie. That's why I'm declaring it as an African movie. African. Yes. And black African to be specific, before people now say, no, it was a Boa who did the movie. No, these are black Africans who are acting and they are telling you the story of what is happening in Africa. That they are lesbians, they are same sex people who love each other. And imagine they've even taken, they are so kind to us that they're even showing us their private lives. You know, movies are just is just about telling us about the reality that many of us don't see. You know, if you live in a house that has men, you will not know lesbianism. Yes, you will not know lesbianism. If you live in a house where you have ladies, 90% you will not know homosexuality. But thanks to the internet, you can now go and Google and get homosexuality, heterosexuality, every sexuality you'll get. And movies, if you want to know, I want to know if homosexuality is real, just go and watch a video of gay sex and you will see it's real. Real. Everything, even including the liquid that pours out, is real. So what does that do? That tells you you have learned a lesson, you've gone to school. The internet is also a teacher. Very good one, because it will always teach you. So basically, expression is diverse and it should be allowed. And especially in movies, not in real life. Like, what I mean by real life is like, people will say freedom of expression would mean then we should murder people anyhow. Like what happened in Germany. The Nazis just killed millions of people, and someone would say this is expression. No, that's different. That one is not expression, that's a crime against humanity. But a movie that is discussing and telling you what can happen, especially like they were after the Nazi massacre and the Holocaust, there were movies that came, that there were movies that were done to tell people about what happened in Germany. And they were not done to promote what to that thing to happen, because already now there are laws that prevent that thing from happening. But it was done to show people how, as human beings, we can be callous. And so basically, interpretation of movies is diverse. So even the lesbian movie should be shown for us to study and know what are the various interpretations you'll get from the society. You see, some people will feel like, you mean this is happening? And then this is a chance for you to tell people, yes, it happens. And is there science to prove it? Yes, there is science. That is the beauty of movies. And then for the lesbian community and the gay LGBT community, it blesses them, it strengthens them, because they can relate with what is happening there. So rather than hit banter and talk all day, I would just stop there and say, go and watch the movie. Those who are going to watch it, I wish Rafiki, of course, it could have, if Africa, this is the time Africa needs to understand that we need to be LGBTQ tolerant, so that we can watch our stories. No one is watching a European lesbian movie, even if they are good. They are good, but they are not. They cannot resonate to the African mind as like an African movie and modern, you know. So Rafiki has done a very good job. I'm focusing on the Africanness today, and I'm happy for the Africanness of it, in the sense that it is showing us that it is real. Gays and lesbians are in Africa and are African and love their partners and go through challenges because of that love they have. And so the society that is homophobic should understand that they are attacking people who are in love. Do not interfere with love. Do you remember? Even the Bible says, what God has put together, let no man put asunder. You know, let no man come and divide. So that is the same as gay love and lesbian love. When people love each other, don't go and divide it. Don't go and destroy that love. Promote it and say, fine, you love each other. Please. It's like when you're passing by the house and then you find people making love. Do you go and stop them and say you're doing something bad? No, you say, oh, sorry, sorry, sorry. Carry on, carry on. I'm sorry. Forgive me, forgive me. Just go on, go on. That's how you do it, because you understand that moment is a special moment, it's a nice moment, whether it's gay or straight. So, Rafiki, do well done. Also, we are grateful for the African movies that are LGBTQ themed, like Moonlight, that won an Oscar. Moonlight was beautiful, beautiful. I can talk about that movie the whole day. Thoroughly beautiful. And um, then The Wound, thorough classic, thorough, thorough classic, and it is so African, it hurts. It is so African, it is so beautiful, because they were showing us what how African people express gay love. I don't know. I can praise that movie forever. And so what we are now saying as we close, we are encouraging more and more black LGBTQ movies of quality. I'm waiting for the Nigerian LGBTQ movie. We really need a story about Nigeria's horrific homophobia that is there. And there are very many stories we can create. Especially the LGBT community should know this is your time. And the best person to tell your story is you yourself. Nobody else is going to say it to you. Not your straight parents. They are not going to tell your story the way you will tell it. It's because it's your experience. BC Alimi has just talked about his battle for LGBTQ rights. It's personal. Yes, it is personal. It's who you are. So if you don't fight, who will fight for you? The dog? It won't. It is you, and you're the best fighter of your own rights. So rise and do it in very many forms. You can be marching on the street. You can also be blogging. You can do what I'm doing. There are very many ways of standing up for your rights, and you can make movies, and that's what has happened with Rafiki. Okay, guys, thank you so much. All the best, and let's hope Rafiki wins an Oscar.